the script that ChatGPT created, and I am recording, doesn't really hit the mark, does it?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, what is the mark?
Maybe it needs fine tuning. Like we could go back to ChatGPT and say, hey, buddy, we need to make sure we deliver on what we promised in the beginning of the pod. What else?
Yeah, and I just think I think we should start at least
with why
to tell a narrative around like why we think agentic AI is the future. Because if we are going down this path, like the sooner we start to like
Jen's pointing to the whiteboard that says agentic AI acceleration.
Yeah, like I think we should start to like talk about that if it's something that we're like really going to focus on. Like that's the link, right, to like our business. So maybe like that's what I mean here, like why we think it's relevant or something. Like this could be a segue to like a whole series where we discuss agentic AI in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like if you think about AI and just software in general, it's hard to separate the two, right? Like it's AI is like an evolution of software. It's the automation of a task or a decision that is made over and over again with the same variables and the same outcomes or set of outcomes. What makes agentic AI special is autonomy.
Okay. But that's not what I mean. I mean, like, we're not really saying why any of this is relevant to us or to anything.
Well, we are, when we're looking at 2025, and we had a really amazing episode about planning for next year, we tried to understand what our clients will need.
Right.
We want to try to project like their needs so that we can map out our business plan around solving those needs and delivering value to the market. And I think it was in that exploration that we landed on agentic AI is like one of the things that we should expect that is going to be in high demand in 2025.
Yeah.
Obviously, like for early adopters, it's late in that game. But we also kind of are under the assumption that there's going to be a lot of folks in the middle and end of that adoption curve. And just like websites, just like every other kind of innovation that comes out, a lot of folks are going to need some help.
Right.
And so I think that's where we kind of thought, hey, maybe we should talk about it on the podcast. A big focus of our efforts is going to be around agentic AI. And to be honest, the bulk of the work that we're doing right now for our clients is within or around the implementation and escalation of agentic AI. So, yeah, we thought we should talk about it on this episode 10 of the Looking Forward podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode 10. Yeah, I made this pod. Sort of. All right, so let's start by pulling back the curtain, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
So right now we use AI tools like Descript to help with things like voice editing and structuring. Descript even allows us to create AI versions of our voices. As you'll hear in a little bit, it may sound surprisingly real.
Yes. But first, let's talk about the different tools that go beyond just voice cloning. We've been using AI-driven research assistants to compile info and help outline our topics for different episodes. For example, we often ask AI to list trends, whether it's in something like agentic AI or for finding real-world applications in business for some of the topics we discuss, which helps us to sort through mountains of data really quickly. Obviously, this isn't what we do full-time, podcasting, and And so it allows us to produce content that's, well researched without it being a huge lift of our time.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge time saver.
Yeah.
Instead of manually sifting through articles or papers, AI pulls the relevant data, summarizes the insights, and allows us to start with a solid framework. Not only that, like we go back and forth in the creation of the script with AI, and saves us, I think, hours
For sure.
of editing and hours of writing. We just fine tune it, and the beautiful thing is, once we get an AI generated script, then we'll read through it together. We'll feel like, oh, that doesn't feel natural, or that's not how I would say that, or this and that, and we'll make edits to that script.
Yeah.
Then we'll record that script, and we'll make minor edits, final edits before we publish it. But then this is a step that we do that I think is making our collaboration with AI on the scripts better over time. Is that when we produce the final episode, we publish it, we transcribe it, and we feed it back to our generative AI companion, so that it gets a sense of the finished product after our collaboration into the scripting. So over time, we should expect that the scripts that we receive are closer to the finished product, because the AI is learning about our particular nuances that we do on our final edits, and even the way that we record it and when we say it, way we say it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good at finding patterns and giving us objective info, but it still needs us to filter and kind of shape it into what we want it to be for our listeners ultimately. So we looked at some examples. We like to pull those in. JP Morgan Chase is a great example of how they use AI to help with compliance and fraud detection. Obviously different from podcasting, but it's more than just collecting data for them. It's able to flag anomalies, analyze patterns, and actually learn from each case to improve its accuracy.
AI can be super effective in controlled environments. In JP Morgan's case, they're using AI as a watchdog for compliance, catching patterns a human might miss. It's still guided by humans, but has enough autonomy to make quick, impactful decisions.
Yeah, in retail organizations like Amazon, one of our faves, they use agentic AI to power their recommendation engines and to predict customer preferences based on real-time behaviors, and then is able to further refine those recommendations constantly. So it's making split-second decisions on product suggestions. However, humans still ultimately set the guardrails around those algorithms.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Jen. Amazon's AI doesn't just recommend products randomly, it learns for each user interaction, and then it tweaks its suggestions based on that interaction. But at the end of the day, it's still working within the parameters set by Amazon's engineers and data scientists.
Yeah, and that's obviously key for us as well. We use it as a tool that's helpful for compiling our research, like we mentioned, or structuring the content, but ultimately we're still deciding what makes it into the episode. And it would really just feel like a bunch of raw data, I feel like, if that weren't the case.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel the same quite exactly.
Yeah.
But, while today's AI can certainly assist, it's still a tool, a very powerful one, but not the creative driver of this podcast.
Agreed.
Now let's dig into what would be required for AI to reach that next level of independence. Agentic AI. Today, we're mostly seeing enhanced automation, where AI tools perform tasks, but they still rely on human guidance.
Yes, exactly. So agentic AI then would take this a step further, or it does take this a step further, by acting independently towards broader goals, like decision-making, or even adapting on its own without that human guidance. So let's look at some real-world examples of companies that are already moving in that direction.
Yeah, for example, DeepMind in healthcare. They're working on AI that can predict patient deterioration in hospitals by analyzing medical records, vitals, and other real-time data. In some cases, it's alerting doctors to intervene even before symptoms can become critical.
That's pretty cool. This DeepMind AI isn't just about data analysis either. It's also synthesizing info across sources, and essentially it's triaging patients. So it's not making final decisions again, but it does alert doctors who can then make that call. So it's very agentic-like capabilities, but within some, I guess, still strict boundaries.
Okay, all right, let's close our eyes for a second and imagine if agentic AI could evolve from scenarios like these to a level where it could independently create content. Jen, you didn't close your eyes. It would have to make high-level decisions, manage creative direction, and engage listeners in the way that we do, all without our input.
Which brings us to an important question. Even if AI could eventually take over the creative process, should it? Content isn't just about facts. It's about interpretation, humor, and connection. All things that we as humans bring naturally. Without that, what's the point even of content creation?
Yeah, there's also an ethical layer. AI doesn't have morals or values. In a podcast setting, that could mean it selects topics or delivers messages that don't align with our mission or our values. Imagine if AI took creative liberties in ways that were tone deaf or insensitive.
Yeah, for sure. Or if it chose a direction based solely on what would get the most engagement, which I think is becoming more common, it seems, these days, without taking into account any nuances or context that might exist. So that's where humans have to decide how much agency we're actually willing to hand over to AI. Maybe agentic AI will always need to be paired with human oversight, and I kind of hope that's true.
I don't, but maybe it's okay.
We can agree to disagree.
And maybe that's okay. The way things are moving, we're likely to see more agentic-like AI in specific industries first. But content creation might actually end up being one of the last places where full agency feels safe.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how long that shift takes. All right, let's summarize today's discussion with a few key takeaways.
Number 1, current AI tools support us in compiling, organizing, and structuring, but they rely heavily on human input. They're nowhere near acting as truly independent creators.
Number 2, companies like JP Morgan, Amazon, and DeepMind are leading with agentic AI that can make quick, impactful decisions within controlled environments. However, these AIs still operate within human-defined parameters.
Number 3, even if agentic AI advances to greater autonomy, it lacks the ethics, intuition, and personal touch necessary for meaningful content creation. A truly independent AI might lack the nuance and relatability that comes from human creators.
Number 4, as AI continues to evolve, how much agency are we comfortable giving it? Would you, our listeners, tune into a podcast made entirely by AI? Or does the human element make all the difference? And as promised, here's a quick outtake from our AI voice clones. It's maybe a bit eerie, but we hope you enjoy it. All right, so let's break this down. When we talk about agentic AI, we're really talking about moving beyond tools that simply do what they're told. Agentic AI would be able to take broad instructions, understand goals, and make decisions independently, adapting as it goes.
It's a big leap from automation, which is what we mostly use now. For instance, if we told an AI to make an episode on agentic AI, it would need to research, write, structure, and even decide the tone. That's quite different from just using it to edit or transcribe.
And imagine this. An agentic AI could analyze listener feedback, identify trending topics, and even decide what might engage our audience most. It would make calls on the fly, maybe even adjusting the direction of an episode halfway through production.
That's fascinating. But let's be honest, how comfortable would we be letting AI take that much control? And even if we were comfortable, would it really capture the human touch that makes our podcast special?
Exactly. There's something uniquely human about reading between the lines, understanding nuance, and frankly, being creative on a gut level. AI isn't there yet, and even if it were, we'd still have to think about what we'd be giving up. Thanks for tuning in to this unique episode. We hope today's conversation gave you a fresh perspective on AI and its potential.
If you're looking forward to our next Looking Forward episode, please subscribe, share, and leave us a rating.
And shout out to our team at Ampersand for all of the really cool work they're doing implementing agentic AI for our clients.
And until next time, keep looking forward.